As part of the body balance program, we're going to go over a couple of different workshops, and today the workshop is going to be on eating outside the box. Do calories count? Presented by me, Mark Norton. First thing we're going to go over again, the Body Balance program's mission is to participate in a fun, educational, mental, and physical challenge that will motivate and inspire you to change your life forever. And down here I've got two graphics. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And so you have to be able to change. And what we're going to be going over today is going to change a lot of your guys' perspective. So the support tools that we have for the Body Balance Challenge are MyFitnessPal. So we can track our nutrition and our workouts. By using MyFitnessPal to track your daily nutrition and workouts, you're documenting everything you eat, which makes you more aware of what you are putting in your mouth. Your food journal will hold you accountable for your actions. You're also keeping track of your exercise and eating habits will help us make adjustments and keep you on the path to success. It is proven through numerous, tons of different studies that documentation of food when you're eating it and how much you eat, the people that do that are 40% more successful than those that don't. So make sure that you're using MyFitnessPal to track those things. And if you're not, get with us and so we can make sure that you know how to use it, because it's a really simple tool. So today, Nutrition 101. What we will cover today are creating a caloric deficit for fat loss and muscle gain, how meal frequency and timing will affect your fat loss and muscle gain, and an introduction to how hormones affect your body fat. So first off, it is true that you have to have a caloric deficit in order for you to lose body fat. But it is not true that it is a direct correlation between what calories come in versus calories out in you losing body fat. Protein, fat, and carbohydrates all react differently to your hormones and have different functions within the body. So that means that those calories are all going to be different when you bring them into your body. So we need to make account of that. Processed foods and natural whole foods are completely different as well. So the whole idea that you can just count whatever calories you're eating and document your workouts and lose weight it works for a time being, but it won't work for the long run. And it's not a healthy way to lose weight. All the super lean people eat way more in calories than what you would think and are able to keep it off. And that's because we're creating a caloric deficit by increasing your basic metabolic rate and muscle versus fat. Your muscle is responsible for 40% of your basic metabolic rate. And most calorie counting diets end up wasting muscle. And so you decrease your caloric intake so much that you sacrifice your muscle, which is reducing your metabolic rate. So most people that do lose weight through calorie cutting end up gaining more weight back because they've sacrificed muscle, which controls how many calories they can take in throughout the day and how many they're burning, their basic metabolic rate. So here we have a cross-section of what an obese person, how the fat is distributed in the body, and one on the right, and that's how all the muscles and organs should look. And and there's about the same amount of muscle. So if the person on the left-hand side were to go on a calorie-restricted diet, the fat would go down, but so would the muscle. And then and you can't keep up a calorie-restricted diet forever, you don't have as much muscle to create that caloric deficit. So if you want your new body to stay, don't let your muscle waste away. All right, the other way that we're creating a caloric deficit is by exercise through strength training and cardio. Now, on the left-hand side, strength training is the most effective way to increase lean muscle tissue. And when you are creating a caloric deficit, it will help you to maintain that muscle. Now, on the right-hand side is your different ways of doing cardiovascular, or what is perceived as cardio. On the left, you have the marathon runner and you have the sprinter. So what body type do you want to have? The healthy lean muscle of the sprinter on the right-hand side, or the wasted away anemic look of the marathoner on the left? And this is a direct correlation into long, steady states of cardio that is the common perception of what kind of exercise is needed to create that caloric deficit in order for you to lose weight, when in actuality you're wasting muscle as well as losing some fat. All right, so the types of training that we do need to be smart and helping out with hormonal balances, which we will come across in a bit. So let's talk about protein and how protein is important in our nutrition. So we have in this picture chicken, eggs, lean beef, garbanzo beans, kidney beans, lentils, nuts, all have protein. Protein has 4 calories per gram. Now, the body is going to use those calories in a certain way. These protein calories are broken down into amino acids. Those amino acids are there to help with a structural role in muscle, skin, and bones, for cell division, for growth, reproduction, and healing, for transporting nutrients, for regulation and maintenance of fluid balance and blood pressure, to regulate chemical reactions and enzymes, hormones, and blood clotting substances. Protein is also important for immune system to defend against bacteria and viruses. So protein is the building block of the body. And in my 18 years of training women and seeing tons of different nutrition logs, men not so much, but women in general have an aversion to eating protein to the levels that need to be eaten. So you need protein to maintain muscle, to keep your metabolic rate up. And it's protein calorie is not the same as your carbohydrate calorie or your fats calorie. It's broken down and it's used as the body to rebuild. So it's an important nutrient that needs to be eaten in small amounts throughout the day, and we'll go over that in a second. The next macronutrient is carbohydrates, and those contain 4 calories per gram. And you have what we will call simple carbohydrates, or vegetables and fruits, on the left-hand side, and then you have your grains and your pastas, those complex carbs, on the right-hand side. And all those things that are wheat and everything that have been preached to us that are healthy for us. So you're creating a caloric deficit with carbohydrates. 2 different types of carbs in your body create two different things. So the simple carbs, which are your vegetables and your fruits, are good. Why? Because they have a slower absorption rate, which cause more natural insulin levels. It's one ingredient. It's either your vegetable or your fruit. There was no processing, so they came from the earth and meant for us to eat. So humans have been on the earth for 200,000 years and processed carbs for about 140. So the next step was to go into complex carbohydrates, which are your grains and those types of things. And those are the bad carbs. Why? Well, they create a drastic increase in insulin in the blood. Drastic insulin spikes are unnatural, and when those happen, they're because the complex carbohydrates have caused so much sugar in your bloodstream that insulin has to come and take that sugar out of your bloodstream, and it ends up storing it as fat. All right, so insulin is a hormone for fat storage. So fat does not make you fat. Complex carbs make you fat in the sense that they increase your insulin levels, which then store those as fat. And to fat. Fat contains 9 calories per gram. There are healthy fats and then there are unhealthy fats. The healthy fats are your fish, eggs, the egg yolk, fine, nuts, olive oil, grapeseed oil, coconut oil. All those things are good fats and natural and need to be eaten more often. We've been taught in this fat-phobic society that fat will make you fat. And ever since we've gone low fat, America's gotten more obese. So, what does the fat do? Eating natural fats to promote fat burning. They help to build muscle faster. They curb your cravings for junk food. And they supply your body with essential nutrients. Fat helps with better absorption for certain vitamins and antioxidants. And they prevent nutrient loss during cooking. Fat is there to help make you full faster so you don't eat as many calories. Fat also helps with your digestion. Those good fats are there to help you out. Your essential omega fats. The other thing is that we think that maybe cooking with olive oil is a natural and a healthy way to go. But any olive oil should be used as in a cold component and should never be heated, because then that degrades the oil and ends up causing a trans fat. Now, if you're going to use cooking oils in cooking, you need to use stuff that is higher in heat resistance, like avocado oil or coconut oil, or even natural organic butter. But you still don't want to cook at such a high level that it burns, and then that's when that fat turns into a trans fat. So moderation on the cooking temperatures. Okay. Meal frequency. How often should you eat? So these questions are important because you need to eat more often throughout the day, but the breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And most people in America are skipping breakfast or not eating until lunchtime. So as far as the meal frequency is concerned, you need to eat every 3 hours and don't skip meals. Now, eating every 3 hours increases your metabolism, because as soon as you eat, your digesting of those calories and those breaking down of those nutrients increases your metabolic rate. It also lets the body know that it's getting the right nutrients, so it can burn off those calories faster. And if you're eating the right amounts of protein, you're going to be able to rebuild your muscle faster. The carbohydrates that you're eating aren't going to have an effect on your insulin levels. The meals will be smaller so that insulin levels will stay at the right level. Because if you gorge yourself, then insulin is introduced into the system as well. So you could not eat complex carbohydrates and still have an insulin spike because of the amount of food that you're eating. So the single most effective way to maintain your metabolism is by eating. And you have to start eating breakfast and getting into that mode, because once you've woken up, your body is in a state where it's starvation. And when you're in a starvation state, your cortisol levels are high. That's a stress hormone. And then exercising in the morning is also a stressor, which increases cortisol levels. So if you're doing intense workouts in the morning, you need to eat something to curb those cortisol levels. You can work out in the morning on an empty stomach, but it has to be moderate to light exercise for 20 minutes, and then after that you need to eat. So breaking a breakfast up into 2 small meals, one where you have, before you work out, an apple, a pear, a greens first smoothie, a juice, a green juice that you make up, something that gets some carbohydrates into the system so that you can suppress the cortisol levels and get your body working. And then afterwards, having protein in your meal right after that workout. So 2 smaller meals can make up your breakfast if you're a morning exerciser. Now, the other study that has been done on how often you should eat is through years of bodybuilding and physique show competitors. They eat every 3 hours, sometimes 2, all the way throughout the day. And that's helping to burn fat and get them leaner for their competition. So they're eating the right amounts of foods in every couple hours in smaller portions. The eating protein and veggies and the right amounts of fat every couple hours at first can feel like you're eating too much. And it's important that you feel that you do it every 3 hours, whether you're hungry or not, because your body is so used to starving if you're skipping meals that those frequent feedings will have an effect on your brain, and you're not going to be able to your body doesn't understand that you're bringing in food every couple hours. Once a week to 2 weeks of doing that, your metabolism will rev up and you will be starving before every meal. So it's important to start that as a habit, even if you don't feel like you're hungry. You need to eat to rev up your metabolism. Okay. What should you eat and when? Well, we need to eat protein within an hour of waking up in the morning. That way we can start that building process again that you just created from being at sleep. So if you're going to eat carbs, it's better to eat them earlier in the day. And there's 2 different studies that have been done on meal timing. The most recent one was done in Spain, where 2 different groups were overweight, were given the same caloric restrictions and activity levels, except for one thing was their timing. In Spain, they eat in the middle of the day. Their biggest meal is in the middle of the day. In America, ours is usually the dinner. So the lunch in Spain had to be eaten by the first group before 3 o'clock. The second group, their biggest meal was eaten after 3 o'clock. Now, both groups lost weight in the 10-week study, but the group that ate earlier in the day lost 4 pounds more than the group that ate at night. Similarly, there was a study that was done with meal timings, the same amount of calories for each of the 3 groups, and the same activity level. One group ate within all their calories that they were allotted within 4 hours of waking. The second group in the middle of the day after 4 hours of being up, and then within 4 hours of that was their meal time. And the last group was after 8 hours of being up, they had to consume their allotted caloric intake. The first group lost weight. The group that had all of their calories in the morning. The second group that had their calories in the middle of the day maintained their weight. The group at night gained weight. So the earlier that you can have most of your calories at breakfast, breakfast should be the biggest meal of the day. So you need to eat breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. That way you'll shift your metabolic rate into more of a fat burning inferno, right? So you've got to eat within an hour of waking up in the morning. If you're going to eat your carbs, eat them earlier, and cut off your complex and simple carbohydrates after 4 p.m. Because normally after 4, unless you're an evening exerciser, you're not going to burn it off. So it'll be stored as fat. So something that is overlooked in exercise and body weight and fat loss is sleep and stress. So sleep and stress have 0 calories, and you can't eat them, but they can drastically impact what you choose to eat, how much you eat, and whether it will be burned or stored once you eat it. So if you're working out and you're trying to eat right and you're stressed out and can't sleep, the stressing out and this not sleeping will have a dramatic effect on how much body fat your body is going to be able to burn. So here's a little illustration of hormones and body fat. You have 3 factors that control your testosterone, insulin, cortisol, and HGH, human growth hormone. That's your nutrition, your exercise, and your lifestyle factors. So that's your stress and those types of things. So if you are eating well but not exercising and stressed out all the time, you're going to have a negative program. You have to do all 3 of those. The bad programming will result in fat gain, muscle loss, and inflammation. So you've got to eat well, exercise properly, and maintain balance within the stress and your sleep. That'll lead to good programming, which will help in your fat loss, your muscle gain, and your inflammation decreasing. Inflammation is what causes disease, right? So as long as those hormones are in balance, because your lifestyle, exercise, and nutrition are all dialed in, those control the hormones in a positive light, which have positive outcomes. So all 3 of those things have to be done properly. So we've got a little hormone wheel right here. So we have leptin resistance. So if your body is resistant to leptin, you're going to have excess body fat. And it's usually caused, the more body fat that you have, the more leptin resistant you're going to be. The leptin is also due to having a high fructose diet or overeating. If you have anorexia, that'll also have a factor on your leptin resistance, or just eating grains, which then go to insulin resistance. So insulin resistance is also excess body fat. That's the result of having insulin resistance. And it's usually caused by a high carb, high fat diet, which is the average American diet. Also caused by overeating. And then that'll lead to excess cortisol, which cortisol is a hormone that is affected by stress, lack of sleep, and leads to belly fat storage. And then low adiponectin levels are associated with leptin resistance. So if you have low adiponectin levels, you're going to have a higher chance of being obese, insulin resistance, and it starts with when you're younger, high carbohydrate diets and high temperature cooking with your fats and the oils. And here's a little cheat sheet on your hormones and body fat and what insulin does and the areas that are affected by having high insulin or more insulin than what your body would need, because it helps to store and get rid of blood sugar. You're going to store more fat in your abdominal area, your waist, and your hips. The foods that are going to affect your insulin are sugar, starch, alcohol, and refined foods. And the foods that help your body with insulin and is slow carbohydrates. Those are going to be your veggies and your berries, and having protein and healthy fats. Again, healthy fats are fantastic and we don't eat enough of them. So your lifestyle that'll affect insulin is starvation and irregular meals and unbalanced meals. So if you're starving, your insulin levels will go up because you have irregular meals. You're going to binge, and then those insulin levels go up as well, so causing more body fat. So the lifestyle change is regular balanced meals and regular exercise. Cortisol affects the fat in your abdominal, waist, hips, and your upper body. The foods that affected your body and cortisol are alcohol, lack of glucose, caffeine, and refined foods. The foods that help your body are pretty much the same as the insulin. Your lower glycogen index, or slow carbs and veggies, and having protein will help decrease your cortisol. And the lifestyle, lack of sleep, starvation, and stress have a huge effect on your cortisol. So need to improve your sleep, eat regular balanced meals, and relax a little bit. Estrogen levels that are high, you'll have more fat in your hips, thighs, buttocks, and chest. And the foods that help with increasing your estrogen, which is not a good thing, are dairy, alcohol, non-organic meat. The foods that help your body are green veggies, healthy fats, green tea. It'll help with your menstrual cycle and lifestyle changes or regular exercise. So your progesterone, if you are high in that, you'll have more fat in your hips, thighs, buttocks, and abdominals. The foods that affect your progesterone levels are your refined foods. The foods that help your body are organic foods, and lifestyle changes or lifestyle effects on progesterone are stress and unbalanced meals. So lifestyle changes to regularly intake good quality nutrients. So basically, we can control our hormones very simply by eating slow burning carbs, which are your veggies and berries, having the right amount of protein, each meal, and increasing healthy fats with the oils and supplementing with some good fish oils, and organic foods that don't have all the hormones and the antibiotics and those toxins that will affect your hormones in a bad way. So this little chart kind of gives you an idea of what hormones are in your system and how where they're storing fat and how we can affect that in a positive way. And it's regularly balanced meals, regular exercise, and improving your sleep and relaxation. All right. So our next workshop, Casey will be going over hormonal imbalances and body fat a little bit more in detail. So when we look at this, it's a mindset, and it's a changing of your mindset. So once you change your mindset about nutrition or your belief system, then we can start to change your behavior and do it in a healthy way by eating breakfast, starting to break down your meals so that you're eating every 3 hours. And the best way to do that is to plan it and do it ahead of time so that you are prepared. So your mindset, a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines one's behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. So we have to have a good mindset going into this and change our behavior and understand how hormones are affecting us negatively and positively, and manipulate those through healthy eating and smart exercise and just stress reduction and good sleep. So balancing your life so that you can get the most out of your exercise and nutrition and just life in general. So thank you, and please email any questions that you have. Post them on Facebook. Make sure that you're liking us on Facebook and commenting and checking in at the gym. Throw up some of those questions or shoot us our emails, and that way we can put it on, because if you have the question, there's probably a lot of other people that had the same question. Thank you, and continue on this journey. We look forward to seeing you in our next seminar.